and Deltarune Chapter 4 that has stuck in my mind ever since the chapter's release. Everyone knows that at the end of Chapter 4, a mysterious caller, who is likely Carol in some way, tries to keep Kris on track for some kind of plan. However, in the weird route, this call is completely different. This time, Kris doesn't try to run away, they simply lay in bed, defeated after the Titan fight and what we did to Noelle earlier in the day. Instead of using an unexplained, evil, dark voice filter, Carol calls Kris normally. Instead of reminding them of the plan, which, they're kind of slacking right now, Carol instead focuses the topic on Noelle looking happy to go to the festival with Kris. This scene has bothered me for so long.
And me. Hi.
Yeah, and you.
There's just so many weird things about this call. Like, why would Carol even be calling Kris about this? I don't think it's normal for a parent to be calling about a date for their own kid. Especially because there's no way she didn't notice the giant thorn ring needle stuck in Noelle's finger, right? Or even a change in Noelle's demeanor. Something is fishy here. And we believe that Carol might have a stronger involvement in the weird route than most would think.
Many questions have risen about Carol's role in Deltarune's story, the actions she will take, and her relationship with her daughter. Today we're going to tackle these questions head on by dissecting Carol and Noelle. I'm Dawn, and this is Dan, and together we are Danger After Dawn. In order to even grasp what Carol could want with Noelle, or how she could do any of this weird route stuff, we need to start with the basics around her and Noelle. So let's dive right into the frozen fate theory.
What is the frozen fate theory? The theory is simple. Kinda. Every character in Deltarune is trying to alter Deltarune's ending. Noelle, in particular, is very instrumental to what will happen at the end of the game. As a result, the potential to alter her role or minimize it is very important to if the ending will play out favorably for a given party. The weird route specifically is a possible way to control her actions that is put in place by Carol herself. Before we get into all the nitty-gritty evidence, we need to talk about what in-game shows us Noelle is this important.
Other than the fact that Noelle is the star character of Deltarune's hidden route, her importance to the story is shown to us in other ways. One way that I'm sure everyone knows is Noelle's relationship with the Angel of the Prophecy. In the Dark World, she wears a white robe, which typically symbolizes holiness and purity in the real world. She also just mentions angel wings like a million times. So off the top of my head, we've got Noelle and Death made an angel in a youth group. She tells Susie she wants to grow big angel rings and fly away from her life. And she owns a pair of angel wings from literally being an angel in a holiday pageant, etc., etc. We don't gotta go over literally everything. It's pretty obvious she has some connection to the angel.
Interestingly, her color in the battle UI is yellow. We know that pink and gold are important colors for Deltarune symbolism. I don't think it's a coincidence that Susie, Noelle's love interest, is distinctly pink in the battle UI. Susie is already probably the most important character in Deltarune right now, so Noelle contrasting her is good proof that Noelle is equally important to the prophecy's ending.
As for what Noelle has done in the actual story of Deltarune, we'll have to focus our attention on Chapter 2, where she's the most prominent. Throughout the whole chapter, Noelle is relentlessly pursued by Queen. Queen seemingly wants the best for Noelle, despite the fact that she's trying to force the poor girl to make dark fountains. Her goal is to allow everyone in the world to be happy through the spread of dark worlds, allowing them to be engrossed in their deepest desires. She sees Noelle as a person who needs guidance to unleash her full potential. Queen does so quite violently though, threatening Noelle's friends, and even though it's all to make Noelle happy. Noelle ultimately stands up to her though, so Queen lets Noelle choose which world will make her happy.
There's an incredibly common interpretation that Queen represents the mothers of the Lightners in Chapter 2, with her being this goofy drunkard for Kris, cruel to Susie, and chastising Birdley. It's easy to see how her actions, when applied to the mothers, affect how they act. Even with Birdley, whose mother hasn't even been seen and might never be. More than anyone, though, Queen offers our first real insight into Carol's relationship with her daughter.
One of the main things we know about Noelle and Carol's relationship is that Noelle fears her mother. In fact, many people fear Carol, as she is kind of considered a one-woman army around town. Alphys goes as far to say that the police force is basically just for looks with Carol around. Queen has the same sort of relationship with Noelle, as well as constantly trying to hide from her at every turn. But what about this whole tough love thing that Queen and Noelle have going on? Well, it's pretty easy to imagine Carol is like that, but bringing out Noelle's true power for her own happiness, that seems a little interesting. We're getting a bit ahead of ourselves though. Just keep that in mind. Why would Carol even want something like that for Noelle?
We already know that Carol has some big crazy plan with Kris the Knight and whoever else is involved with this. For now, it seems like her goal is to fix Des somehow. It's clear that Carol is scared about losing more than she's already lost. For example, Noelle says that Carol keeps everything important at her house. This crazy lady literally preserves paper snowflakes to keep in her house, even though they were supposed to just be hung up at her job for a bit. I mean, it's not hard to imagine why she's so obsessed with being protective. She's already lost one daughter. Her husband is in the hospital, and who knows what the prophecy has in store for Noelle. How much more can this woman lose?
It's unknown to what extent Carol has been working in the shadows to hold on to what she has left. But there are some strange hints that show maybe she's been planning this for years before Deltarune. Her and Des have an obsession with red, heart-shaped objects, which of course is a reference to Kris's soul. And oddly enough, Kris has pretended to rip out their soul before using one of those very pillows as a child. It's all so bizarre. And Carol obviously knows we're involved with Kris, judging by the big, glowing red U she says. It really makes you wonder, how much has she planned? I think it's time we stop beating around the bush and finally get to the weird route. How could she possibly have set up the route? Let's figure it out.
Something that's been made clear in Chapter 3 and 4 of Deltarune is that what we're being shown about the Roaring Knight's plan is absolutely not the full context of what they're actually after. Very overtly, in Chapter 3, we are led astray. We are made to believe that the knight is after Toriel. But when you scrutinize the context surrounding the situation, it's evidence that isn't true at all. The knight sluggishly tries to capture Toriel in an evil tractor beam of death that barely even moves her. Kris has his whole setup with slashing Toriel's tire and leaving the door open. Also, Toriel would call the police and have Undyne enter the house. There's a lot of emphasis put on the knight being late. The chapter is literally called Late Night, but the knight wasn't late. Think about how the knight fight ends. You can just get smoked and the knight still barely tries to grab Toriel, Or you could somehow be a gamer god and do the fight with no damage, which causes Kris to basically tell the knight to wrap it up. They're not after Toriel. The night came exactly when it needed to because they were actually trying to get undone the entire time. Chapter 3's Dark Fountain has a clear ulterior motive, and Chapter 4 follows up on this by having the knight open a fountain in the church when Toriel isn't even there. The ulterior motive here is a little less clear, but I think the goal in this case was to bring down the Fun Gang, tear down their hot streaks so they either fall in line or have a harder time fighting against the Night Gang's plan. Think about how Kris reacts after this. When you go to the lake, Kris keeps looking at Susie like they want to tell her something. That something is probably the fact that not only are they working for the enemy, but what just happened was directly meant to hurt her. In fact, this could tie back to our pink and gold thing with Susie and Noelle. It could be to lessen her guard so Noelle gets to choose the ending, what will make her happy. Sound familiar?
If Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 have clear ulterior motives, then we need to look back and consider possible ulterior motives for 1 and 2's Dark Fountains. Now, for 1, I'm not going to lie, I don't think there's much for Chapter 1. The goal was probably just to get the ball rolling on the plan, so, I mean, it doesn't really have to be like 4D chess there. But Chapter fucking 2, the Weird Route chapter, oh no, there is absolutely no way there is not an ulterior motive there. I mean, Chapter 2 barely has a main goal for the Night King. What was the goal? Just to have Queen force these guys to make more Dark Fountains? The Knight didn't even ask for that to happen, like the whole Tenna thing that they had going on. It was just Queen's own idea. I think you know where we are going with this. That the possibility of setting up the Weird Route was the ulterior motive. There's just so many bells and whistles here, but also so many crazy coincidences. So, let's start with one question. Noelle and Berdly obviously need to be in the computer lab for this to work, which means we need to prove that they were funneled into the place, and not just there by coincidence.
On the surface level, we know that Noelle and Berdly go to the computer lab because they want to work on their research paper. So it's as simple as they go to the library because they need to do the research on the computers. Except it's not! You see, while it could have been assumed that Noelle just can't bring Berdly to her house because her parents fucking hate him, that isn't true. We can see in Noelle's room that there's evidence Berdly has been in there, and they could have done work inside. And she has a computer. So why couldn't they have just gone there?
Foolish Daniel. You've forgotten a key plot point in Chapter 2. The internet in Hometown has been down since before Deltarune even started, so they can't do the research at Noelle's house.
Okay, but if the internet is down, why are they even going to the computer lab in the first place? They can't even use the computers?
Shit, well, the theory's canceled. We're finished. We're finished. It's over. Cancel it. Just delete the channel.
That was a rhetorical question.
Oh.
Because they aren't in the computer lab to use the computers. They're not even sitting at them. They went to the library to get books on their research topic, and they're using the computer lab to read them because it's right there in case they need to change books around or whatever. So, in truth, the internet being down did cause them to funnel into the computer lab Darklore plot. And I'm totally sure the internet being down right as a new project is starting is surely a total complete coincidence.
Thank goodness. Oh, thank goodness. Well, that's honestly the biggest hurdle. Now, we have to think about how this whole thing starts. The Weird Route is initiated by forcing Kris to have multiple romantic interactions with Noelle, which includes telling her Kris will ride the Ferris wheel with her at the carnival, and telling an Addison that the two of them are more than friends. And also freezing countless individuals, but that's not important. There's a very clear romantic undertone between these two characters in the Weird Route, and this too is directly related to Carol Holiday.
During a conversation in December's room, Susie mentions that Noelle has a picture of her and Kris on the festival's Ferris wheel as kids. Noelle has weird feelings towards this event that confuses Susie quite a bit. She says that the ride was forced and that it doesn't even really count as romantic or anything because of that. Susie is confused by this since they shared a Ferris wheel ride in the Dark World. And I'm confused by this too. Is this not just a pretty direct reference of the Ferris wheel interaction in the Weird Route? They're both about forced Ferris wheel rides with romantic undertones involving Kris. These are intentionally paralleled. If we're forcing them together in the Weird Route, then who forced them to ride as kids? Well, who else but one of their parents? The one who exerts the most pressure on her, Carol. This isn't a direct tie to her involvement in the Weird Route, but it is pretty darn close now.
But it doesn't get any more damning than this. Has anyone bothered to ask themselves why Spamton even has the thorn ring? And why he knows what he needs to do with it? He knows he can only give it to Kris and Noelle once Cyber City is frozen over. How could he possibly have gotten a hold of this pivotal item? Spamton's only possible connection to this object is his mysterious collar. Though this collar made Spamton a big shot, once his life fell apart, his worldview shattered. That's really all we know about them, but if they could instruct him on how to get the Shadow Crystal in Queen's Mansion, why couldn't they give him the Thorn Ring too?
There's a lot of talk about who the Shadow Crystal giver is, but is there even a giver? Okay, no. That's a bigger debate that we're ready for in this video, but Spamton isn't even given a Shadow Crystal. He was likely informed where he could find one, but that's not in line with what happened to Jevil and Gerson. Both of them were simply gifted one. So why is Spamton's the exception? Well, let's think about Spamton's call. He seemingly got it while the Queen's laptop was at the Dreamer's house a long time ago. We know this because Tenna mentioned Spamton getting this call before running off. But it's weird though, because as far as we know, you can't make calls in the Dark World.
So this happened a long time ago. Maybe even during that red heart-shaped pillow era. You know, actually, red heart-shaped object. Noelle isn't the first person to say that, is she? It's actually Spamton. He uses that exact wording to describe Kris's soul. Where could he have possibly gotten that verbiage and that obsession from? Maybe from the very person Noelle says is so obsessed with them. Carol Holiday was Spamton's caller. The question we asked all the way at the start of the video of why Carol has that weird voice difference in the two endings of chapter 4, it could be because she's calling from a dark world in her shadow text. The different endings of chapter 4 show that the plan has now changed. I don't think it's a coincidence that we seem to be locked into the Weird Route in the same chapter this call happens. She, all the way back when Kris and Noelle were kids, has been working to set up all of this since December disappeared. All of it so Noelle gets to have the power to change Deltarune's ending. If Weird Route doesn't start, that's okay, because it's only plan B. Chapter 2's Dark Fountain exists, so we have the option to set up that B plan.
And think about how Kris reacts to Spamton in the Weird Route in this context. Kris is in crisis mode in Chapter 4's Rid Route. They deliberately go behind our back to try to fix things with Noelle so that she doesn't go down this path. But think about it. If it was just to stop us from hurting her, that would really even matter, right? We could still hurt Noelle without doing the Rid Route. Kris is specifically trying to divert the Rid Route and prevent us from continuing. And the reaction to Spamton being a puppet too. Spamton's whole, it pulls the strings and makes them the ring like a phone. Kris isn't just freaking out because they relate to them, they literally are in his exact position. Carol is using both of them to her benefit under the guise of giving them freedom. It's all coming together.
Carol loves her daughter, but she's lost so much that she's willing to put the ends before the means. This whole story around her is an exaggerated example of how parents can enforce control over their children, just like us playing as a character in a game, on top of a view on tough love. We still have a lot to talk about, but that's why we're making part 2, baby, because Carol isn't working alone.
Well, yeah, she's working with Kris and the Knights.
Okay, well, other than them, there's one other person that Carol has been working with since the start. The man who speaks in hands, working in the shadows with his own devices. So stay tuned for Frozen Fate Part 2, A Deal with the Devil. Like and subscribe and stuff. Okay, say his name so we can end the video.
Okay, see you guys next time when we talk about